In today's rivalry matchup, we're looking at St. Louis and Dallas. And when you look at their overall histories, St. Louis does have a better history than Dallas, and they do have the lead in terms of the playoff series between the two. That's the reason I'm wearing blues. But, it's gone back and forth throughout these teams' histories. Right now, 8-6 is the series lead in favor of St. Louis. They've met 14 times since they came into the league together in 67-68. Regular season, St. Louis has the lead there. 139 wins, 107 losses, 43 ties, and 7 overtime losses for St. Louis. So the overall record is in favor of St. Louis. They are, of course, like I said, expansion teams who came in together and played each other a lot when they first came into the league. 1968, St. Louis goes to the Stanley Cup Finals, Game 7. 1968, it actually went to overtime between the Minnesota North Stars and the St. Louis Blues. And Ron Schock scores the winner for the Blues at 2 minutes and 50 seconds of double overtime. So double overtime needed in a Game 7, and it's not the only time that would be the case. It would seem that if it goes to overtime in a Game 7, it favors St. Louis. 1970, they meet again, this time in the quarterfinals, which was round 1, and St. Louis knocks off Minnesota in 6. 1971, the Minnesota North Stars get a measure of revenge. They knock out the St. Louis Blues in 6 again in the first round. 1972, they meet in round 1 again. This time, we go to Game 7, and we go to overtime again in the Game 7. This time, St. Louis gets that game winner from Kevin O'Shea, who played a grand total of 3 games in the National Hockey League as an NHLer. So it's always interesting when you get a hero in a game that you don't see much of during the regular season. These teams took a break. Nice long break. 12 years in between matchups. In 1984, they meet in the second round. So this is after the Minnesota North Stars have gone to the Stanley Cup Finals in 1981. And they meet in round 2, and Minnesota knocks them off in 7. So Minnesota wins their second out of 5 meetings. Keith Acton is the leading scorer for the Minnesota North Stars with 2 goals and 4 assists. Don Beaupre, 4 and 3 with a .922 save percentage. Bernie Federko, 3 goals, 2 assists for the St. Louis Blues. And Mike Liut went 3 and 4 with a .921 save percentage. So the goaltending was excellent in that series. And Minnesota's number 1 scorer being Acton. I'm thinking St. Louis at the start of the series has taken that going away. 1985, they meet in round 1, so 2 years in a row again, and it would become 3. And the Minnesota North Stars take out St. Louis in 3. They knocked them out in 3 straight, so a 3-game sweep. And this is, of course, during that time where the first round of the playoffs was a best-of-5 affair. So when I hear people talking about, you can't change the playoff format, they've changed the playoff format plenty over the years. Willie Plett was the leading scorer for the Minnesota North Stars with 2 goals and 2 assists. Joe Meloche, 3-0 with a .955 save percentage. Yeah, he did pretty well. Rob Ramage led the Blues with a goal and 3 assists. Rick Walmsley was 0-2 with an .875 save percentage. Greg Millen was 0-1 with a .943 save percentage. So in 1986, they meet in round 1 again, and St. Louis is a little more ready than they were. And so they knock off Minnesota in 5. So this one goes the full distance, 5 games. Minnesota had home ice, which didn't matter, but it didn't matter the year before when St. Louis had home ice. Now, Dougie Gilmour leads St. Louis with 2 goals and 6 assists. Rick Walmsley was 1-2 with an .866 save percentage. Greg Millen, 2-0 with a .915 save percentage. On the other side of the ice, you've got Dennis Maruk with 4 goals and 9 assists, 13 points in 5 games for Minnesota. And Don Beaupre was 2-3 with an .892 save percentage. Now, we go to 1989. And this is right around where when I'm putting the magnets on the board, I'm like, how many Minnesota North Stars magnets do I have? Do I have enough? And the answer is just barely. So, round 1 in 1989, they meet, and St. Louis emerges victorious again. So that now has the overall series at 4-3, or 6-3, I should say, in favor of St. Louis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-3. Yeah, 5-3 for St. Louis. Peter Zezel, 6 goals and 2 assists in that series. Greg Millen was 4-1 with a .901 save percentage. On the Minnesota side, Brian Bellows leads him with 2 goals and 3 helpers for 5 points. The goaltending was a problem for Minnesota. John Casey 1-3 with an 868 save percentage. Kari Taco goes in the net for a game, ends up with the loss, and an 873 save percentage again. The goaltending favored St. Louis. But in 1991, something interesting happens. These teams meet in the second round. First time they've done that since 1984. This is their second meeting in 3 years, and they do tend to clump together when these teams meet each other. And in this series, John Casey was the difference, and it's St. Louis that had their struggles in net. So Mike Modano leads Minnesota with 3 goals and 4 assists, and John Casey was 4-2 with a .908 save percentage. And this was the year Minnesota made the incredibly improbable run to the Stanley Cup Finals with a record that was, well, not very good. Adam Oates, 3 goals and 4 assists to lead the St. Louis Blues, 1 point more than Brett Hull. And Vincent Riondo, 2-4 with an .872 save percentage. Riondo was a very good regular season goaltender. And then in the playoffs, not as much. So they would eventually move on from Riondo and go with Curtis Joseph full-time until Keenan came along, and then he alienated Joseph. But before that happened, these teams met in 1994, and it's in round 1. And Dallas sweeps the St. Louis Blues. First time that they've done it in Dallas, but is the second overall sweep, and both of them have been for that franchise to this stage. Mike Modano, 5 goals and 3 assists, I should say, for Dallas. Wakaluk, 4-0 with a .926 save percentage. Love Darcy Wakaluk. Mogan Wakaluk were the goalies then. Brendan Shanahan had 2 goals and 5 helpers for the Blues, so he had 7 points in 4 games. It wasn't Shanahan's fault. And Curtis Joseph went 0-4 with a .905 save percentage, but Dallas just emerged with every victory, and Wakaluk was kind of fantastic, and it's a great name to say. It's a lot of fun. So they don't meet again until 1999. 1999, of course, is the year that Dallas wins the Stanley Cup. And Dallas, with home ice advantage in that round, they win it in 6. And Modano, 3 goals and 4 assists. So it's interesting that Modano leads them in scoring these 3 occasions, and Dallas or Minnesota wins all 3. Belfour goes 4-2 with a .931 save percentage. And on the other side of the ice, Dimitra, 3 goals and 2 assists to lead the Blues in 6 games. And Grant Fuhr, 2-4 with an .883 save percentage. And, Grant Fuhr comes in and plays for St. Louis in the 99 playoffs against Belfour. You got 2 Hall of Famers right there. So they meet again in 2001. So it's the second time in 3 years, much like here. The difference is the Blues knock off the Dallas Stars. Now, the Stars had won the Stanley Cup in 1999. They went to the finals in 2000. They meet in the second round with the St. Louis Blues in 2001, and they get swept. So for St. Louis, Marty Reasoner is the leading scorer in that series with 3 goals and an assist. And Roman Turek, who had been a member of the Dallas Stars organization, goes to St. Louis, comes back to haunt him, sweeps him in 4 with a .946 save percentage. And I was really mad that series. On the other side, Nieuwendyk, 2 goals. That's it. Leads Dallas in scoring. And Belfour's 0-4 with a .904 save percentage. So this Stars fan was griping a lot about Turek out-dueling Belfour. And this is right around the end of Belfour's time in Dallas. He would move on to San Jose and then over to Toronto, of course. So they don't meet again for a long time. They don't meet again until 2016. And you know, the interesting thing is, as I go through all these rounds, I don't remember a lot of animosity. I don't remember these teams really flat on hating each other and bench clearing brawls in the 80s. I don't remember a lot of bloodletting going on. 2016, that series didn't have that either. The Blues emerged with their second victory in a row. Remember, the Stars organization has 3 in a row here. So the Blues win their second in a row, and it's in 7. Dallas had home ice. It didn't matter. They did not have the goaltending to knock out the St. Louis Blues. Backus, 4 goals and 4 assists to lead St. Louis. Brouwer had 4 goals and 4 assists as well in the midst of a great run for him. And Elliott was 4-3 with a .929 save percentage. On the Dallas side, Jamie Benn, a goal and 4 helpers for Dallas. Lettinen was 3-2 with an .891 save percentage, and Niemi was 0-2 with an .857 save percentage. And I did a video recently on that series, so I don't really need to belabor that. It was it was a rough series for Dallas's goaltending. Now, in this last year, we've seen them meet each other again. 2019, in their 14th meeting. 14 times. That means about one in every 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, one in every about 3 years, these teams are meeting each other in the playoffs. And it's always been in round 1 or 2. And the last 4 meetings have been in round 2. And in this one, St. Louis wins their 3rd in a row, which is a record for St. Louis now with 3 in a row. And this one goes to 7. This one goes to overtime of Game 7. So they've had 3 Game 7s go to overtime, which is tied with the Flames and the Canucks for the most. And the winner, Pat Maroon, at .550 of double overtime. So 1968, Ron Schock, double overtime, sends the St. Louis Blues to the Stanley Cup Finals. 2019, Game 7, sends them to the conference final on their way to a Stanley Cup. So St. Louis, they do well when they score in overtime in a Game 7 to knock out the Minnesota North Stars. Now, Jaden Schwartz had 4 goals and 2 assists in that series for St. Louis. Jordan Binnington was 4-3 with a .922 save percentage. On the Dallas side, Matt Zuccarello, who I still wish they'd been able to keep, a goal and 7 assists for Zuccarello was fantastic. And Bishop, 3-4 with a .922 save percentage. And again, I mean, I remember complaints from Blues fans about Lindell falling down kind of easy. I remember complaints from Blues fans about Bishop falling down and all of that. But I don't recall a lot of ugliness between these two teams. And I think there's, and this is something I've been talking about in some of these rivalries, which is, you know, that there is sort of a mutual respect between fan bases in some of these. And again, it depends on the fan. But considering how many times these franchises have met each other, it's just led to some really good series. You have 3 sweeps out of 14 series. You have one that only had a team winning a single time. Every other series has almost or has gone to the limit. This one, best of 5 goes to 5. 6 games, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 6. 6. These teams, they're close. And yet, both in 2019 and 2016, I had a feeling the Blues were going to knock out Dallas, and then it happened. In Dallas, in 2019, it was a matter of not being able to score, and in 2016, they couldn't keep the puck out of the net. But I'm telling you, Blues fans, at some point, Dallas is going to figure out how to both score and keep the puck out of their net, and at that point, we'll see if things reverse, and Dallas goes on a run. But it is interesting that Dallas has won Stanley Cup. They went through St. Louis to do it. St. Louis has won Stanley Cup, and they went through Dallas to do it. So, apparently these teams have some success after they've played each other. Again, that's out of 14, so relatively speaking, it's modest success overall, but still, both teams have won Stanley Cup, and they went through each other to get it, and they could very well meet in the playoffs yet again if we have playoffs in 2020. And I'll be here to report it if and when that happens, and I would not be surprised if they meet each other 5 or 6 times over the next decade, because that's just how it works. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.